Okay. Let's do 6 more now.
Sounds good.
Great. Okay, because we're going to do, another bullshit, like throwing 15 in, like we did that 20 video before, at some point when I get to them, hopefully soon, because I want to do them before, nominations start coming in.
We got that video to do in 2 weeks.
Now, we're going to start with Fury.
Okay.
Which is David Ayer's attempt at a World War II movie. Which I was a little worried about because you may have possibly seen earlier this year that he made Sabotage, which I was really, really hyped for and just kind of
Yeah.
So, I was concerned about this, especially since people were like building up Oscar talk and shit. Obviously, you saw in the first video I threw Logan Lerman in because I had heard so much about the role itself, even though nobody had seen the movie by that point. I guess they were just going off the script or something. But it is about this tank crew who are War Daddy, who is Brad Pitt, who is their leader, basically. They don't... The interesting thing about that... I'm already getting... fuck introduction. I'm just going right into this now.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting that he's basically their leader, but they don't really treat him that way.
No,
like they use his rank like very loosely. Because by this point in the war, nobody gives a shit. It's 1945 by this point, and just all kinds of shit has already gone down, as you know if you know your history. We have Bible, who is Shia LaBeouf, who's basically their voice of reason. Yes. This is how crazy this movie is. Shia LaBeouf is the voice of reason.
Nice.
He's the guy who, quotes all the Bible verses and, is against sinning, but then again, doesn't mind killing Germans because fuck them. Nazis, I should say. Yes. And even in, like, the most dire of circumstances, he's the one that's the one that stays level-headed through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have Gordo, who is Michael Pena, who is basically the literal drunk driver of the tank. He's kind of the most underdeveloped of all of them, but he still has his moments. And then we have Kunis.
Yeah.
Who is John Bernthal, who is this really aggressive redneck. With a questionable haircut.
Questionable?
And he's basically like the wild animal of the group. And they've just kind of been, they've been together for, since he said, like 1942, I think, is when he said they first became their thing. And they have this, other crew member with them who is dead. His head is literally blown off, and they're just kind of... They have no choice but to just kind of, set him there with them, because they didn't want to just abandon the body. So, he's getting... The dead guy is getting replaced by Logan Lerman, who is basically just a typist that was thrown into this. He was just a typist, and then they say, okay, now you're going to run this machine gun in this tank. Go. So... and he's very timid. We learn right away that he's very timid because the first thing they make him do is clean up the dead guy's body.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to need a bathroom break for 30 seconds here, but apparently there was a nice vomit scene while I was gone.
Yeah, his cut off face, he sees it out of the corner of his eye, jumps out of the tank, and all just pukes everywhere.
So, luck was on my side there.
Indeed. Indeed it was.
And... that's basically the extent of it. It's just them going through Nazi-occupied Germany. Brad Pitt loves killing his Nazis.
Yes, he does.
So the whole like leading up to this movie, the whole time before I saw it, it was just branded in my head that Brad Pitt was gonna have a Southern accent in this movie again. So yeah, and that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
But the thing about that is, this movie is really great. Mm. It's like best of the year material. So as of now, it's in my top 10. I don't know if it'll stay that way, but we still have 2 more months to go, but we'll see what happens. Well, first off, I was really concerned about some of the casting. Like, when you're looking at, you're in World War II, 1945.
Mm.
And you have actors like Brad Pitt and Shia LaBeouf and Logan Lerman in it. One of the things that could really kind of put a damper on this immediately is dropping modern looking people into the setting, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Which they kind of are, but it's going to be great immediately because obviously Brad Pitt's already done this, but
yeah.
When you think Shia LaBeouf or when you think Logan Lerman, they don't necessarily look like they're from 1945. So, it was great that they were able to accomplish that. They gave Shia, the mustache. And that all worked out just fine, so that wasn't a problem. The high point of obviously the person that was getting the most attention from this was Logan Lerman from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I can see why, because he probably is the standout of the cast, even though he and Shia are the ones that really stand out. Besides Brad Pitt himself, Pitt is really good with that. He's really good, well cast, because he has to be like that stoic leader, but he also has that humanity in him to kind of keeps him from becoming a caricature. But Lerman has a lot to do here, and I'm going to assume that a lot of people are probably going to say he didn't pull it off, and a lot of people will say he did.
Mm-hmm.
So, because what he has to do here, because he's also the only one really that has an entirely full arc, because he is one character at the beginning of this movie, and by the end of the movie he is a different one.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of those scenes where he has to, a lot of his big scenes, I guess you could say, are just him emoting without saying anything. Even though he does have, he has, breakdown crying scenes, he has screaming scenes, he has fighting scenes. But a lot of his screen time is just, the emoting without dialogue. And I thought he pulled all that off really well. And another thing about that character that I think really works is the fact that, I guess you could kind of say he's the audience's perspective, more or less.
In essence, yeah.
Because when the movie opens, we're just in the midst of this. The very first scene of the movie is this really awesome, Kurosawa shot of a German on a horse, and Brad Pitt just kind of jumps out of the abyss and stabs him in the face. So you immediately feel like you're just dropped right in the middle of this battlefield, which is what's literally happening to Logan Lerman's character. And much like him, the crew is kind of established in this opening scene, because we just kind of see them doing their banter thing and letting their personalities come out. But with him, we kind of get to see, let them grow on us and see, how their personalities work and how they behave towards each other and stuff like that. And how they react to what goes on around them. So I thought that helped in making the character stronger also. The action in this movie is, there's a couple of things. First off, it's really graphically violent.
Yes.
This is one of those, we kind of, had this... Well, we had, Saving Private Ryan and The Thin Red Line in 1998, and then kind of in the early 2000s, we tried to have this resurgence of war movies that took place on the battlefield, like Black Hawk Down and We Were Soldiers and all those.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a big one I'm totally forgetting, but this is more in the vein of those, because it's not really... for the longest time, I just associated war movies with on the battlefield and people getting blown apart and explosions and shit.
Yeah.
Like those movies I mentioned were. But lately that kind of went off to the side for a while, and war became various different things you could do with that genre. Obviously it's been around forever, but I'm talking in this more recent vein. But yeah, this is more kind of like those. I'm not saying the quality, I'm just saying the feel, I guess.
I see where you're coming from.
Right. And the violence is often really sudden also.
Yeah.
So
big time.
Like I said, the very first scene of the movie is Brad Pitt stabbing a guy in the face. So
I remember just seeing somebody, I'm not gonna say who, peeks their head out, next thing you know, bam, gone.
Yeah.
Done.
And the great thing about this is when you think of those movies like that, even Saving Private Ryan, really as great as it is, a lot of these war movies seem to be just our heroes on the battlefield, and they're just kind of firing into the abyss at random people, or at nothing, and just kind of hoping they hit something, and it's just totally complete chaos. What David Ayer did here that's really interesting, that I thought really worked, was the action scenes are like that, but they feel a lot more like articulated carefully. Because there's always, like, it's not just them firing at nothing or, oh shit, somebody's shooting at us, just all weapons this way.
Mm.
There's always, like, a specific target or, like, an impending danger that they have to get past. And that really helps build, the tension in it. There's always something that's coming after them, and there's always a specific something they have to take out if they're going to survive and move on. So, I thought that really, really worked. And that also, there's a lot of really interesting drama as well, obviously. I mean, obviously you could just kind of delve into just, oh, this is our sorry excuse for character development. They fight, and they talk about their backstories and bullshit. And you don't care, but, the characters, like I said, like when I was going through the list earlier, like saying, Bernthal's the aggressive redneck, and War Daddy's the leader and shit like that. Norman's the timid one. They all manage to bring something to their characters that makes them real enough and human enough that you actually care if something happens to them.
Yeah,
like
completely.
every time an action scene breaks out, which is really frequent. You always fear for the life that one of them might go, because they're so good, you've grown so attached to them. The actors are so good and the characters are so well developed by this point. There's a really good scene where right in the middle with all this action going on, the movie kind of takes a breather, and they go into this apartment building with these two German girls and just kind of chill out.
Yeah.
Like War Daddy finally shaves, and they have breakfast, and Norman gets laid. They're at the dinner. War Daddy and Norman are at the dinner table with these two German girls, and everything's fine. They're having this nice little quiet breakfast together, and everything's wonderful. And then the rest of the crew comes up, and they're like really, rambunctious, and Bernthal's basically kind of throwing a fit because Norman got laid. And there's this thing here where we're kind of starting to get into, this is where we really delve into War Daddy's backstory, or his humanity as well. Bernthal and Pena, and to an extent, Shia LaBeouf, are so, I don't know what their deal was in this scene, but they had really reached the end of their rope, and they were trying really hard to get under War Daddy's skin.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what he's capable of. Need I say this again? I will anyway. The first scene of the movie is War Daddy stabbing a guy in the face. So it's hard to tell what he's capable of.
Yeah.
And the intensity in this scene is almost as intense as the battlefield scenes themselves. So I thought that was a really great scene to throw right in the middle. It's like the centerpiece of the movie. So yeah, and I just want to say this to get a little technical on you. I know it's too much to hope that Oscar pays attention to this, because there's going to be so much other things. But the cinematography in this movie is insane.
Completely agree.
I did not go into this expecting it to look that fucking great. The appearance of this movie is fantastic.
Totally agreed.
There are so many just fantastically, beautiful shots in it. That took me by surprise. And it's through the whole thing, too. The opening shot of this movie and the very last shot of this movie are, the kind of shit that gets etched in your brain that you remember for a long time. And just the way that suits the story, too. It just all fits together perfectly. Have I raved this movie enough? Because I'm not quite done yet.
Well, I got some things to say, too.
Yeah, and there's also, like I said, it does, despite the fact that there seems to be constant action, the suspense is there, too. There is one scene here that really just, no, like I said, we feel the most for Norman because we pretty much he's the closest we have to a representation here.
Yeah.
Moriarty makes him go up ahead and just kind of sit there and wait to see if anybody, like, just to say, warn us if somebody's coming. And they don't think anything of it. He's just like, all right, and then he goes up there by himself. And after a little bit of waiting, he starts to hear this army of Germans chanting, and it's getting closer and closer. And when that happened, my stomach actually dropped.
Yeah.
So, yes, this movie has pretty much everything. And of course, it throws in the humor also with the banter can be good. Bernthal and Pena are really funny together.
Yeah.
But there's also, and it's always balanced out with that, and there's never really, characters are never fully established, this is absolutely what this person is, deal with it. They're always willing to, kind of grow a little bit. It's basically established that Bernthal's character and Lerman's character are going to be at odds. But then there's this really, really great scene where, something happens, and he's trying to pull Lerman away so he doesn't get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And Lerman throws a fit, and all of his anger and rage that have been building up to this point, he just starts to punch Bernthal over and over again, and tries to knock him out, but obviously Bernthal's too strong for that.
Yeah.
And Bernthal just kind of takes the hits and tells him, yeah, get mad and keep hitting me. And then he just grabs him, it sounds a little cheesy, but he just grabs him and screams, "This is war," in his face, and then pulls him away. The score's really great for that scene, too.
Agreed.
Which kind of showed the whole, it was also kind of a progression of how Norman was becoming one of them, but how also, if you set up two characters as rivals, they're not going to stay that way. They will grow as characters, so, yes. A lot of movies like this probably would not have done that. So, I certainly was not expecting that out of this movie, to be totally honest, so...
Yeah.
I think it's gonna kind of get a reputation for being like that. Somebody recently compared it to, it's like a bro genre in the vein of 300, where people who watch Monday Night Football with their dicks in their hands are gonna get a huge...
Yeah. Count the hats.
Yeah, but, it's not that kind of movie most of the time.
No.
The action scenes can get really huge, and despite, that... I thought the climax of this movie, if unlikely, is really, really...
powerful.
It's something.
Yeah.
It's something good. So, yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of good things to say about this.
Are we looking at a new classic, a new standard for war movies in our time?
I'm not quite sure how people are going to take to it, because apparently when the reviews first started coming out, they were pretty much negative, but now it's certified fresh. So
that's random.
I don't know what people are thinking of, but it seems to go back and forth.
It's really
good. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot. I struggle to say deep, but
it's a lot to take in.
It's more than you're thinking it is, for sure. I'm sure. I never watched the trailers, obviously, or the promotional stuff, but I can assume, when I think war movie by David Ayer,
yeah,
Deep's the last thing I'm thinking about.
Very true.
The guy just fucking made Sabotage earlier this year.
Yes.
So...
trailer does not give away that much. Mm. If I recall the trailer a little bit, it doesn't give away as much as they usually do.
I'm sure there's something in there that shows too much, but...
there always is, but it's not as bad as some are.
Like I said, it made one of those movies I wouldn't have loved as much if I saw all the trailers, but I do love it now. So
yeah,
that's all that matters.
It's an awesome film.
Okay. Well, kiss this shit goodbye. I just want to keep talking about Fury. Let's just...
all right.
God damn it. Okay. It's time we move on.
You might want to get a drink or a snack or just hit pause, because it's going to be a while, folks.
Our next movie is The Best of Me, which I didn't even know existed 2 weeks ago.
Yep. It's not being promoted very well. Or maybe it's being promoted in stuff I don't watch.
Because like even if I don't watch the trailers, I still hear them. I don't even remember hearing this trailer. Did we ever have it shown at our theater on something?
I believe I put it on at least one thing. And I probably took it off the next week.
I think I heard it once, really, really recently. And that's it.
It was because they gave it to me and they're like, it comes out in 2 weeks, so you might as well put a trailer on. I was like, I'm going to take this thing off next week, so.
Well, if you're unaware, like I was for a while.
Yeah.
All I saw was the poster and I knew exactly what it was, though. That's all I needed to see.
Yeah.
And not even words, just the poster from a distance. I was like, that is a Nicholas Sparks book.
Yeah.
That is so... Okay. Well, what the best of me is it comes up, the credit comes up that says based on the novel by Nicholas Sparks. Two people fall in love. Two people strain to keep their love alive. Tragedy strikes, somebody dies, the old people in the theater cry, and then the credits roll.
If it was only that simple, sir.
It is that simple.
No, if the review was only that simple.
Okay. Now, I just described how many of those movies have been made now.
God.
15?
At least.
We'll throw 15 out there. That sounds about right. But, you know what? Why don't I just start from the beginning? I will like to say immediately that the star of this movie is James Marsden, and I'm sorry to break it to you, this is nowhere near the quality whatsoever of the last time James Marsden was in a Nicholas Sparks adaptation. So, that's what you got to look forward to. It's him and Michelle Monaghan, and we have... It goes back and forth. But I will start where the movie starts. Well, okay, so we meet her character, and she's got a son, and she's got a neglectful husband. And he's working at, like, some oil rig of sorts, auditioning for Armageddon 2 or something. And there's a big explosion. And not once, but twice, is he pinwheeled through the air. He's the only person affected by this explosion, it seems.
Yeah.
And he is vaulted into the water by the invisible wave that this explosion causes to only one person. It's like he was like a magnet to it or something. And he lands in the water hard. His doctor tells him later that the fall alone should have killed him. But a miracle happened. This is the kind of movie we're dealing with. At the very start, the first thing we're told is... He was in the water for 4 hours, and he is alive.
Not even hypothermia, not even anything.
The fall should have killed him. He stayed alive in water for 4 hours. And the doctor dismisses... The doctor does not call the Guinness Book of World Records. He does not call scientists to investigate this alien. He says... You are alive because of a miracle. That's all there is to it. Go home.
They could have went further into that. You got to give it to that.
Them investigating how that happened could have been this whole movie, and it would have been a lot better, I'm sure. And certainly more interesting.
A lot more interesting.
More original, too. But, fuck that.
These movies are never original.
So, then suddenly we're cutting ahead. No, wait, stop. What happens is... There was a dude who took care of young Marsden when he was in peril and let him live in his garage and then eventually his house. Well, he's dead now. So, I only know him because he was supposed to be in Django and ended up not. So, here's what happens. Now that he's bitten it, he has brought forth Marsden and Monaghan again. And they haven't seen each other in 21 years. She keeps saying 20, he keeps correcting her. It's 21, not 20. So, he has brought them together for, you know, the whole will reading and the, here I have 2 separate notes for you. These are going to make you cry. And then, of course, they have to kind of rebuild what they started. Maybe they can rekindle the flame and all that shit. So, the movie gets bored with itself. So, we have to go back in time to show how they met. And we have, Leonel Liberato, who's in too many movies now. And, some other dude playing young Marsden. First off, these young people look and act nothing like their
Counterparts?
adult counterparts. So if they had not like constantly said each other's names to let us know. Like there's one moment at the very end that's really funny where they do that, where it's the character April. And we haven't seen her adult counterpart yet. We've only seen the younger version of her. So the very first moment we see her, it's her and Marsden walking and talking. And Marsden says one sentence to her and then says, April, with emphasis on it as if to say, did you hear that, audience? That's who this is!
Yeah.
So, that's how unlike... So, it feels really unbalanced because of that, which is nice. It basically feels like two separate movies. I know they grew in 21 years, but still, it's very unengaging for it to be like that. Now, well, another totally distracting is the fact that all of the young guys in this movie look like vampires.
Yeah.
They all have the really pale skin, such perfect facial structure it makes them look weird, and they are perfect human beings, inside and out. Because that's the thing about this movie. This is one of those movies where we have the good people and the bad people, and there absolutely could not be more separated. Because the good people in this movie are flawless saints, and the bad people in this movie are the root of all evil. There is no in-between whatsoever. And this is what we have to deal with. So, they meet when they're young, and this is just... Okay. This is when I was just put off immediately, because we have their little meet scene where she's in the car with all the douchebag jocks. We know this because they're wearing the varsity jackets, of course. And he's there, and there's a car broken down, and he's trying to push it off the side of the road, and they're just making fun of him for that, because they're jocks that wear varsity jackets, I guess. So she does the thing where, oh, you guys are jerks, I'm gonna help the nice guy that's quiet and push the car. And, of course, she goes off with them. And that scene happens, and that's how they meet. Well, there is a follow-up scene to that where they meet again. Where he's walking across a parking lot she just happens to be in, and she has her hood up, and, there's something wrong with her engine. Oh. So he comes over and he helps her. They never once talk about the coincidence that they are suddenly meeting like this again. They never once bring up that they've already met until later in the scene. And then, he's just kind of helping her fix it. And then he says something, and then she says, oh my god, he speaks, as if she's never heard him speak before. But he was talking in the scene prior when they first met.
Yeah.
Which makes me believe that this second meeting is basically like an alternate take for how they could meet. Like, they had two separate scenes filmed, like, how they were going to meet, and they accidentally put both in the movie.
Interesting way to look at it.
So, already, this isn't working for me.
No.
And we continue. And these characters are as boring as they sound. He's the quiet mechanic that wears tank tops all the time and is covered in grease. And she's the sassy, outgoing girl that, charms her way into meeting people and just really wins your heart. And you're supposed to fall in love with her as you watch it, like he is too. So, regardless of that, okay. Now, okay. If you've been watching these, you saw my reviews for stuff like At Middleton or Magic in the Moonlight or something. And you know that I'm having this streak lately for some reason where my romantic side's a little out of control and I'll pretty much take anything.
Yeah.
Like when I watched At Middleton or Magic in the Moonlight, any other time I'd probably be saying, wow, this is kind of cheesy, yeah. But those movies just made my heart swoon. And I don't know how this happened, but that seems to be happening a lot lately. Well, with that in mind, that my heart can be taken by a movie so easily lately, I have to say that this is one of those movies where the very first scene is them talking about how they can see their destiny in the stars. Needless to say, all it took was the first scene of this movie to make me realize this was not going to be like I Know That Our Magic in the Moonlight and make the heart all swooning and shit.
No.
Was not going to happen with this movie ever. So unfortunate for this movie. Now, of course we have more cliches thrown in this. He has an abusive dad, who's actually quite psychopathic.
Yeah.
We learn. Who is just thrown in, because somebody's got to die in a Nicholas Sparks movie, and we need somebody that's a psychopath to throw into this movie so that can happen. That's it. Which adds like a whole half hour to this movie when it could be ending. So, here's the thing. Another reason we need an abusive dad is because we have to have the scene where he's basically doing the Jaws thing, where he's laying on his back with his shirt off, and she's cuddled up next to him, and he's like, hey, I need you to sympathize with me so you'll fuck me. Look at all the scars my dad gives me. And, of course, just like any other movie person, she says, oh my god, your wounds make me wet. And sure enough, that's exactly how the scene plays out.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you're lonely... just have your dad beat the holy shit out of you, because make sure you really, really show off all the wounds, too. You're right there on the playing field. That's one of many messages this movie has. Now, another thing, let's see, I had to write so many notes for this, they're all, blurred together here now, because I ran out of room, but I will attempt to remember. It's one of those movies that just keeps piling on shit.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours long. When it reaches its logical stopping point in about an hour 25. But they just keep pounding us over and over again with these cliches. There are many montages of the young lovers. This isn't like me saying, an exaggeration of saying this is what it's like. No, these scenes are in this movie. There are montages of them cuddling in fields of flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And stripping down to their underwear and running off the pier and jumping in the water. Which is always punctuated with, oh my god, it's so cold. Yep, every single note of that is in here.
Yep.
And not only that, but they do it twice, because they have to do the thing where they parallel, where we see them do it as young lovers, and then we see them do everything like that again as, they're 21 years older. It's all so wonderful. And, yes, basically every time you see... Oh, yes, we have to have the kiss in the rain, too.
Mm-hmm.
That moment in the movie where they have, trouble has struck, and he has to promise, where she says, I'm gonna stick by you, know what, and he's like, no, I can't let you get hurt. This is real dialogue, by the way. That's actually in there. I'm not even paraphrasing.
No.
The scene where she says, I'm coming with you no matter what, and he says, no, I will not let anything hurt you. You stay away from me. Happens in the rain. And they're just standing in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to have the kiss in the rain, which, ends the scene, of course. We have the scene where, obviously, he's white trailer trash, and she comes from a rich family. So I can't believe I'm saying this right now. I know it's 2014.
Yeah.
It's the end of 2014, and I'm actually reviewing a movie that does this shit.
I know.
It's unbelievable. So, the guy is approached by the dad, and the dad says, my daughter is too good for you. You are trash. I'll tell you what, though, I will pay you to stay away from her. Whatever you do, just stay away from my daughter. And he has to say, no, you keep your money. That's an actual line, too. You keep your money. I love her.
He drinks his shot and he spits it out on his cars.
This movie exists.
Yeah,
this movie is real.
This movie's a
and
book
I honestly
first.
cannot believe this. Okay. It is offensive how lazy this movie is.
Yeah.
That movies that just put this little effort into everything that is on screen for 2 straight hours can still get made is so deeply wrong.
Yeah.
But no. This movie exists, and there are like every romance cliche you can think of. There are probably 3 scenes in this movie that involve them putting a record on and dancing.
Yeah.
3, and one of those scenes, of course, is the scene where they go out in the middle of nowhere and they dance in the car's headlights. I swear to God, that scene's in this movie too. Okay, so you don't realize that was actually me crying just now.
No, I do, because I know.
And not for the reasons this movie wants me to. I swear to God, this movie wants you to cry.
Yeah, really. It does. Big time.
Because it reaches that point where everything comes to fruition and everything's going to be great. Because, of course she bangs him, because that's just what happens. But she's married. But we can't play it up like she's the piece of shit. We have to make him a neglectful douchebag who doesn't even care.
No.
So that it seems like I'm ripping my shirt off in anger.
I know.
It's just hot in here. I just hulked out for a second.
Nice.
But that's not it either. There's a point in this movie where everything should be ending now. This movie is so desperate. I don't know what he was doing. He's doing this shit on purpose now. He's doing self-parody. That's what he's doing.
Yep.
But nobody will call him out on it because obviously there were plenty of people in there that were just weeping.
Yeah.
But, I understand. Even if a movie does cliches, you can still be moved by it. I'm sorry to make fun of the people that cry. But for the love of fucking God, this movie. As this movie is reaching its stopping point, when all of the cliches are on the table now, there is I swear to God, this movie could be ending. And suddenly, her son needs a transplant.
Yeah, he gets into a vehicle accident and needs a heart transplant. Of course.
And then, I won't give it away.
Oh, probably
every
read
single
the book.
If you have ever seen a movie, when every single scene of this movie starts, you will know every single direction that it's going.
Yeah.
I promise. But God forbid, I will not spoil this for you.
We're not doing a spoiler alert for Best of Me.
But when this happens, when the son needs this transplant, the direction this is going is so painfully obvious.
Yeah.
I don't understand how anybody could not see this, okay? Maybe, even if you've, never seen a movie in your life, I would like to think that everybody sees where this is going.
Yeah.
For real, okay? Because there's another subplot they bring back for no goddamn reason, even though there's one scene right before it that clears it up just fine. They just have to keep going. They will not stop. This movie was holding us prisoner, I swear to God.
It was. I agree.
Okay. Now, this movie reaches that scene. And this scene is so obvious, I was thinking, yes, this is our reveal. This is the direction this was going, obviously. No more, please. This movie seems to think that we didn't know this.
Yeah.
So, we get the... Oh my God, I can't believe this movie is real.
I know.
A
fake movie.
I thought this was the reveal scene. This is the scene that makes the audience go, oh, of course. We get the 1 year later card. And then we see everything happy. It is at this point that reveal happens. Like it's some big shocking surprise.
Yeah.
Give me a second, please.
Well, I can tell you something real quick about Luke Bracey, who plays this guy. He's actually going to be playing Johnny Utah in the Point Break remake.
I thought they killed that.
Not according to this.
This guy...
It's got a release date of July 31st, 2015.
You heard it here. This guy is so low on the tier, he is replacing Gerard Butler in a Point Break remake.
Oh my God.
I feel like there's shit I'm missing too. Yep. Okay, listen to this.
Can we talk about the dad a little bit more?
Listen to this. Hold on. Here's the thing. This is one of those movies that's trying so hard. Okay, once again, I know the word manipulative is thrown around a lot, but I'm going to use it now. And let me explain why it's the perfect word for this scene. Okay, this is kind of a spoiler, but it doesn't matter because you could figure this out. The transplant, obviously, you know, he gets the organ, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But the way that's revealed is supposed to toy with the audience. Because what happens here is the operation happens, and then the doctor comes out. And the doctor looks at them and does the fake out.
Yeah.
In all the situations to do a fake out, the doctor comes out, looks at this kid's parents, and frowns. And then when they go, she goes, and then smiles. And then when
You don't do that!
I know it was for the audience and not those characters, but for the love of fucking God, even in that case.
If that happened in real life, that person would lose their license.
Oh my God.
So many lawsuits just from that look alone.
I can't believe this happened today. I can't believe this movie happened to me.
We're talking about one of the best movies of the year in Fury, and now we're talking about one of the worst.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I was trying to avoid it, but I'll say it.
Oh no.
As far as today, this movie was certainly the worst of me. I wish I could have avoided that. But...
I do too, but yeah.
Okay. Let's put that in our past now.
You gonna talk about Marsden at all, or like how he did what he could with the character? And I mean, there wasn't a good.
Not really. I mean, I love Marsden.
I
He's
do
great,
too.
but there's just nothing to do here. He just had to do the I'm hunky because I have grease on my tank top, and hey, don't leave. You're great, and I think you're great, and we should be together. And oh, you're leaving. I'm distressed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Okay. There's nothing squeezed out of this that's good.
Agreed.
No. Sorry, I have to come back to life for a second.
Feeling very verklempt right now.
Okay, so to bring me back to life will be the Book of Life.
Well,
Not
exactly.
We're gonna have to... Okay. Come back to me, Book of Life. Okay. I wasn't really sure how to take this movie because, like I said before, I have trouble getting excited for animated movies, sadly. So I didn't really know what this was. I just kind of had to watch it and figure it out.
The trailer doesn't really give much away either. Well, it does, but it doesn't.
There's kind of 3 different things going on here, but we'll begin at the beginning. We start with these kids on a bus, and it's really, I thought, you said it too, I was thinking this, I thought a short was starting before the movie.
Yeah.
Because the animation looked so cheap, I guess. It looked weird. It did not look like I don't mean this in a good way either. It didn't look like normal animation in like a real movie. In a straight-to-video movie, sure, but...
Yeah.
But no, and these kids are on this bus and they're going to this museum. And while on this tour, they're being told this story. This is like our wraparound story. Fuck if I know why we need that, but... like, because I guess to explain why the main characters in this movie are built like figurines or action figures. But,
Maybe.
all the characters are like have figurines or action figures, whatever you want to call them, in this museum. And the guide is literally using them to tell this story. And we're seeing this story. And we have Ron Perlman and the other woman.
Kate Del Castillo.
And they are basically like in charge of the dead or something. I don't know. But we'll come back to them. we meet our three main characters who are Manolo, Joaquin, and whatever the girl, Maria. I don't remember the girl's name. It's the most vague name in this movie they could come up with. And they are three kids, and Joaquin and Manolo are both in love with her, and they're vying for her attention and love. And then you compared it to Slumdog.
Yeah, big time.
After they fight for her love, she gets on a train and leaves.
Yep.
La Tega!
Exactly! That's exactly what I was thinking the whole time.
So, they grow up, and for the first time since they've become adults, they're gonna see Maria again. She's back in town, and she's got celebrity status for some reason. I don't know what she does, but is she like royalty or something?
I think they were just happy to see her come back into town because
the town made a whole deal about it.
I know. I couldn't really tell because it wasn't really spoken about.
It's worth noting that now that they are adults, they're Maria Zoe Saldana, which I was expecting maybe Penelope Cruz or Sofia Vergara, but
yeah,
Zoe Saldana, okay.
All right.
And then it gets weirder because we have the one casting choice that actually fits here. That's Diego Luna as Manolo.
Yes,
but then we have Channing Tatum as Joaquin, which is really funny because Channing Tatum's kind of the high point in this movie.
Yeah.
But I'll get into that later too. The rest of the story is you have Ron Perlman and the other woman up here, and they're basically going to make a wager. And they actually do this while they're kids, but it's continuing through the years. They make a wager about who's going to win the girl's heart. And if Perlman wins, he gets, control of the world or something. So he's going to basically turn into a villain briefly.
Yeah.
And scheme so that he can win this wager. And his scheme, his tiny little itsy bitsy scheme, is to kill Manolo.
Yeah.
His sword his staff is like a snake.
It's a two-headed snake
that bites and kills. But the trouble is he gave Maria the Juliet juice.
Yeah.
And it just made her look dead. But Manolo's really dead. So charming, isn't it? So Manolo, dead now, goes into this other world. Where that's when we start to realize that Guillermo del Toro had something to do with this movie. In this world.
100%.
Finally. And there it kind of picks up a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. It's basically, going through that first third is a long drive for a short day at the beach with these visuals.
Good way to put it.
And we have, I hesitate to call him God, but that's basically what he is. And it's Ice Cube.
Of course it is.
And that's when I should probably bring up the weird pop culture references in this movie. There's a lot of things wrong with this movie. It is so uneven and weird and awkward. And not in the awesome Del Toro way you might be thinking. This movie has weird pop culture references in it.
Yeah.
Given the setting is really weird. What time period are we?
I don't know. There's times I can't even tell what time period we're supposed to be in. Yeah. Because it's never really mentioned.
Well, we
know they're older, obviously. That's all we know.
We have a scene where Diego Luna sings Radiohead.
Yep.
To try to win over Maria. We have Cheech singing that one song that's in those commercials. That's
Bismarcky, Just a Friend?
Yes.
Yes.
I was trying to think of the name of that song the whole night, and that's what it is.
Not a problem. I know that song very well.
I'm pretty sure it's in his contract to do this now. Ice Cube once again says today was a good day, which he definitely said in Ride Along. I was trying to remember, did he say it in 22 Jump Street too?
I'm pretty sure he did.
I think so. So I'm pretty sure that's in his contract now. It's like Hell No for Will Smith.
What a random comparison. But not so really.
Yes. Now here's the thing. There are so many things that I found wrong with this movie. For starters, it's the humor.
Yeah.
Which I was warned about in advance because I hadn't seen the trailer. So I was thinking, hey, it's Del Toro, it's animated, this should win everybody over. But then I heard, apparently the jokes really suck. Well, here's the thing. there are 3 instances. I know you love this kind of stuff.
I hate this stuff so much.
In the first... Okay. There are 3 different occasions where an animal either pisses or shits for laughs. 3 different occurrences of this in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, if that's not a setup, I don't know what is. And there's just... Okay, and another thing is... I don't even know. Okay. The only thing that really works here humor-wise is the character of Joaquin. But he isn't always funny, but Channing Tatum just kind of has those charming deliveries, and the character itself brings the real humor here. A lot of it feels really disconnected.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that whole beginning, that whole first half hour or so, it's just like, everything that happened was, like, not connected to the scene before. It was just, like, a random series of events. Like, first we get the tour, and then we get the Ron Perlman setup, and then suddenly we're on this love triangle. And then suddenly she's like, oh my god, we gotta free the animals. And then... And it's, where the fuck was this movie going from?
She gets a pet pig out of it, which speaks in really weird languages.
Mm-hmm. So, and some of it just seems really not very well thought out.
No.
Like, when he's there in the other world, Manoa's already dead, okay? He's already... Well, here's the thing. There are apparently multiple stages to death. Because there's you dead, and then there is you, like, in the world where it looks like you got, like, the Day of the Dead paint on you, I guess.
The Remembered.
And then there is Death, where you're forgotten.
Yeah, the land of the remembered and the land of the forgotten.
And you're gone forever.
Yep.
Well, after Manoa is already dead and he's running around in the world, there are things that are trying to kill him. There are a bunch of things trying to crush him. And I'm thinking, what happens when he's crushed? Because here's the thing. Because Perlman threatens him and he's like, if you do this and if you don't do this, you're gonna be forgotten. And I'm thinking, does Perlman have like a giant neuralizer for the world? How does that work?
That's a good point.
I mean, I know he's like a magical creature of sorts, but I mean, just like, you're gonna be forgotten, I'm threatening you. What? How does one act on that?
I don't think it's possible.
I don't know. So yeah, that was bothering me. And then there's this whole separate plot where people want to kill Manoa because he's a bullfighter.
Yeah.
And the whole explanation is the guy says, I hate bullfighters. That's its own thing based solely on that.
Uh-huh.
That's how much this movie's packing. Like, it just feels like an extended short. That's all this is.
It really feels like a short just watching it.
Just a whole bunch of unrelated things are crammed in there that don't work, that just make it this huge, gigantic mess.
Which is a shame.
Like, the whole movie just has the attention span of a tiny child.
Yeah.
That's just how it works, I guess. So, yes. And they keep saying, they have this saying that they talk about, they just say over and over and over and over and over again, no retreat, no surrender. Mm-hmm. For starters, were you thinking about Tim Allen? Because I was.
Yep.
And every time, too, because they say it like, if you were to make a drinking game out of, like, take a drink every time they say never retreat, never surrender, you would be Nicolas Cage and leaving Las Vegas after an hour. So, which is probably a really great way to watch this movie, actually.
Wow.
So yes, this movie does not work at all, but maybe your kids will get a kick out of it, I don't know.
I don't know about it finding an audience or not, honestly, because it even seems like kids might be bored with it.
Probably.
We're running around. Well, I'm not going to let this video go by without mentioning Diego Luna and the joke we've been talking about for forever and a day, ever since Milk came out, so...
Yeah.
This has to be said on camera now.
There's no story behind it. Just Josh Brolin has this really great ad-lib in Milk where he's drunk and he's screaming at Sean Penn. And Diego Luna just kind of walks up and it turns into, who are you? Why'd you just show up from somewhere? And then he's walking away and he's like, yeah, you go, Latino man.
So, if we ever mention anything about Out of Nowhere and say Latino man, it's nothing derogatory or anything like that. It's just straight up Diego Luna from Milk.
Yeah, blame Josh Brolin.
I do blame Josh Brolin for that because it's ingrained in my psyche forever.
The best thing is he got an Oscar nomination for that movie.
Yes, he did.
He got an Oscar nomination for ad-libbing that line.
That's brilliance right
That should have
there.
been his Oscar clip.
I wish it was.
I think You Will Not Humiliate Me was his Oscar clip. We're talking about Milk now. I should probably get going. We're going to speed through these.
Speed?
Yeah, we're going to speed through these. I got a birthday shindig to get to, and it's like 5 o'clock, so I'm going to speed through these.
Limited releases?
Yes, real quick.
And new and stuff we're late to the party on.
There is probably probably the most acclaimed movie out of Sundance after Whiplash, The Skeleton Twins, which is the comedy drama starring Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig as twins who haven't seen each other in years and are brought back together again when coincidentally after they both have cheated death because he attempted to commit suicide in the bathtub, and she was about to swallow a whole handful of pills when she got the call that he was in the hospital.
Yep.
So he has to live with her and her husband, who is Luke Wilson, who is great in this.
He's amazing in this movie.
All three of them are.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just really this wonderful, lovely story that really goes back and forth with being hilarious and being really... something really dramatic sometimes, and in an effective way too. Because they're really because I didn't know Bill Hader is one of the funniest people alive.
Yes,
I can almost barely say his name without laughing just on principle. He's just that goddamn funny.
Agreed.
So I didn't know how he was going to handle drama. Like when I heard about like the reviews out of this coming out of Sundance, they were only kind of vague to me, and they say like oh Bill Hader has some good dramatic scenes. And I was like oh that's cool, but I had never really thought about how dramatic this movie would get when they said that. There's some really dark places here. All three handle it really well. You probably know I'm not a Kristen Wiig fan.
Yeah, neither am I.
But she is really good here. I can't really say anything that has grounds to dispute that. And yeah, Luke Wilson is great as her husband. The great thing about his character is he's like the nicest dude of all time. His name is Lance, and he basically will call you dude like all the time. But the great thing about that is it's really difficult to put a guy that nice in a movie, and not be making like a mockery of him, and actually make him like believable. Like you really believe the guy's just that cool. But Luke Wilson is so perfect in this movie that the character is just so likable. You want him to be like your best friend.
You really do.
And they did that really well. But yeah, these scenes between Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig, especially when they're together, just work really well. And they take a lot of cliches that seem like they'd be really tired, especially in indie movies.
Yeah.
But they just really make them work. Like there's, you have the moment where, to kind of, bring happiness to the moment, they do a big lip sync number, which just makes me happy because I actually kind of like Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, and I desperately needed a movie that wasn't fucking a mannequin that made me think of that song.
No lie.
And now I have that movie, so thank you for that. And there's the scene where they get high in the dentist's office.
That's good stuff.
We've seen that scene so many times, but it's still really funny here. And Hader has some really great moments, like even when he's being like really unlikable, he can still do it in a funny way. Like the scene where he's in like the waiting room and he's reading Marley and Me, and he's almost to the end. And he's like, she's like, oh, I've read that, that's sad. And he's like, why is it sad? Does the dog die or something? And she's like, and he's like, why did you do that? I had this much left. Why did you say that the dog dies? And then he throws it down really angrily. And then she's just, being really apologetic, and he just says, come on, I know the fucking dog dies. Come on. Everybody knows the fucking dog dies.
Yeah.
But then there's that moment where, like, there's a really great scene that he has where he has this speech about, this monologue about how he was bullied in high school, basically, and, you know, usually the story is that the jocks peak in high school, and it's the people who were bullied that go on to do great things,
Yep.
but it turns out the guy that bullied him is doing just fine, and he's still in this horrible rut, and that's a really great scene. But yeah, sometimes this movie really can go for the throat, though. There's one moment that's really catches you off guard, where it really does make it add like a realism to it, because it doesn't make them like perfect when they're around each other. They do get into like really vicious, regrettable fights. She drops the words "next time, cut deeper."
Yeah.
That really hits hard. There is a subplot with Tyrell that's a little, I won't say totally misplaced, but underdeveloped, I guess it kind of was.
There could have been a lot more to it.
I won't say too much about what his character is and what his storyline is, but he and Bill Hader's character have a past.
That's the way to put it.
And their characters reunite after so long, and he's just kind of reuniting with everybody because this is like him back in this area again. But a lot of it really rings true when it couldn't have. And yeah, it takes those cliches, but just really works with them and makes something really good out of it. It's a really nice movie.
And if you're able to catch it in a theater, please do so.
Alright. Our next movie is Love is Strange. It's that's my whole review of it.
Bye!
The story is about, you may not even heard of this, I don't know. I wouldn't have heard of it if we didn't see the trailer for it in Athens a few times on other independent movies.
Yep.
Well, what it is John Lithgow and Alfred Molina are this gay couple who live in the city, and they're getting married. It's one of the first scenes of the movie is their marriage, and everything's great, everything's wonderful, and Lithgow is a painter, and Molina is a teacher at like this Catholic school. Well, it turns out after they have gotten married that Molina is basically being fired because apparently the Catholic school doesn't mind that he's gay, or that, you know, he and Lithgow, you know, live together or whatever. But the fact that he is openly gay and now married, they're letting him go. So they basically lose all of their income and have to sell their apartment. So because they're not going to be able to have any expenses whatsoever to do that. So the only way they can get back on their feet and try to get someplace where they can live together again is to go their separate ways and live in two separate places while they try to find ways of making ends meet so they can buy a new place. So Lithgow goes to live with his nephew and his wife. His wife is Marissa Tomei, who's the only other person getting attention for this movie. Advertised for this movie. And Molina goes to live with two gay cops. Oh, it's worth noting, Lithgow's nephew also has a kid that he kind of does the old man-kid bonding thing with. And they throw jokes at Molina, like getting him hooked on Game of Thrones and bullshit. So, yes. Now, okay. I want to like this movie, but there's really only one big problem with it, but it's kind of a big problem. I will start off by saying that the thing that really makes the movie work, obviously, is the fact that the two stars are John Lithgow and Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
That just was not going to fail.
No.
There was just no way. Because they are just... I don't even have to explain it. If I tell you John Lithgow and Alfred Molina in this movie, you know how fucking good they are.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are. And they make this couple just a really, you know, the best scenes. That's the problem. The whole problem with this movie is its setup. Because the great scenes of this movie are when they're on screen together. And the whole movie's about them being apart.
Yeah.
That's where they failed. Well, even, you know, on their separate ways, obviously they're really great because they're just great actors.
Yeah.
Marissa Tomei is a great actress too, but she's really she doesn't have a whole lot to do.
No.
Now, the problem is, yeah, just that. On top of the fact that, we kind of have some plots in here. Like, the main thing involving, like, the kid. Number one, that just seems like a cliche in general, having the old guy bond with the kid, even though it's awkward that he's living. They share bunk beds.
Yeah.
You know, all that. So, whatever.
And he's hanging out with his best friend now, too, and the kid's kind of rebellious about that.
There's a subplot about this kid, Vlad.
Yep.
We
talked about Vlad last week.
Yeah. Twice.
Yeah.
That just... There's just... I don't know. But the point I'm getting at is that this movie's big issue is just how really, really dull it is.
Yeah.
I was so bored with this movie. I really, really hate to say it, I do, because they're so great in it, the two of them.
Yeah.
But this movie was just... This movie was just like draining the life out of me.
Yeah.
There's just nothing going on
But you got picked right back up right after we got out of the theater, so...
Yeah, the Lynch marathon's still going on, so that was something. But
yes.
Even so, that's basically what Love is Strange was. It was killing time until lost time. You know.
I don't think Kill the Messenger is going to be the same way with Mulholland Drive this week.
No, but for real, this movie should have been great and it could have been great.
Yeah.
A lot of people love it. It's got like a 97 on Rotten Tomatoes
What?
with like 100 reviews.
Good lord.
People love it, and I get it, okay? This isn't one of those movies where I watch it and say, oh my god, what are people thinking? No, I can understand people loving
Yeah,
this
same
movie.
here.
Really, I understand.
But...
It was just putting me the fuck to sleep.
Yeah, agreed.
That's just all there is to it. So, you know, maybe down the road sometime I can catch it again and maybe find something I didn't see before, but I just couldn't do it, you know.
Well, it's funny, this limited releases this week have a common bond, actually. These are all NBC former or current stars. Yeah. Obviously, you have the SNL stars, you have John Lithgow from Third Rock, and now we're about to talk about someone else from an NBC show, which would be Scrubs.
Yeah, we're going to do that right now.
Yep.
There's a cameo, too, so it's two, actually.
Oh, nice.
Everybody knows Zach Braff knows who the fuck the cameo is. I'm sure he's credited, too, so it's not technically a cameo, but... So... Our last movie is Wish I Was Here, which is the movie that Zach Braff... This is the Zach Braff Kickstarter movie, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so where everybody got pissed off the celebrities were using Kickstarter, thanks to Kristen Bell.
It works, thank you.
Yes. Kristen Bell will tell you, Zach Braff will tell you, and Spike Lee will tell you.
Yes.
So, Wish I Was Here is... First off, I was concerned. Because I haven't seen Garden State in a long time, and I know a lot of people hate Garden State because of how just... overly quirky and indie and all that shit it is. And here's the thing, is I hate that shit now, but I haven't seen Garden State in so long, so I still love Garden State up here. But the problem is, I was basically going to decide, I'm going to decide with Wish I Was Here whether or not I still like Garden State or not. So, that's basically how I went into this. So, here's what it is. We have Zach Braff, who is married to Kate Hudson. Very self-serving of you, Mr. Braff. And he has two kids who are Joey King and the kid from Looper.
Wow.
And he is in a rut because he is a failing actor who can't get a part. We see the waiting room for this audition, and it's him, Jim Parsons, and God rest his soul, James Avery.
Yes.
And he's just this failed actor. He can't get any part to save his life. So it's Kate Hudson that's doing the work and paying off all the bills and stuff.
Mm.
Well, tragedy strikes, and his dad, who is Manny Batakian, I guess he had a cancer that went into remission, but it comes back with a vengeance. And now he's practically on his deathbed. So, in true indie movie fashion, Zach Braff has to have a big awakening and, face the fears of his life and stop being a dreamer and become something, but also being a dreamer at the same time, but making it an even balance, while having a quirky, low-life brother that he's got to pick up the slack for, which which is Josh Gad, who's obsessed with making a costume for Comic-Con. Because, indie stuff, having Comic-Con costumes laying around. There's a scene where he talks to a girl, and the girl's wearing, half of, an abominable snowman thing, because quirky. Well, the very first scene of the movie is Zach Braff running through the woods in a Tron suit.
What?
Because he's a dreamer.
Oh, boy.
Now that I've said that, I'm sure if he's seeing this, Zach Braff's crying right now, but don't worry. Wipe your tears, sir, because this movie won me over when it probably shouldn't have. So, I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but because I so should not have liked this movie, but it's not bad. Yeah, it's got all that bullshit in it, but I guess there's just something that Zach Braff brings out of me that I like, because, like I said, I love Garden State, even though I haven't seen it in years, and, yeah, this movie, that shit's in there, and it's annoying. He comes back in the Tron costume more than once, and every time it's like, dude, fucking knock that shit off, it's stupid. It's just fucking stupid, man, stop it. But no, the movie kept winning me over regardless, even if it's really, really cheesy, and you can pretty much, if you've ever seen one indie movie about be a dreamer, but be serious about it at the same time, every scene is in there. Montages of them, doing things while inspirational music plays. All that shit's in here, but I don't know what you do, Zach Braff, but it just works sometimes. More than most here. So this would have been a fantastic movie if it didn't have the Tron bullshit. It really would have. Because obviously Mandy Patinkin's great in it. Kate Hudson, I thought Kate Hudson was going to have the throwaway wife role. She's really good and it has a lot of showy scenes in it, so that's great. Because she's the one that the whole family's on the shoulders of. So that was good. Because it's been a long-ass time since she's had a good part. A really, really, really long time. Between Almost Famous and this, I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm sure there's one in there, just one, but I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. Yes, Scrubs fans and Zach Braff fans. Yes, of course there's a Donald Faison cameo. In a funny scene where they try to take an Aston Martin for a joyride. So yes, they go and the movie really takes off when he decides to kind of come to terms with his life. He's going to take the two kids. He's going to take those. He does this thing where he can't stop cussing, so he has a swear jar on the refrigerator that's full because he says fuck constantly. So he picks up the swear jar and he takes the kids and they go, because they're homeschooling the kids now, because they can't afford to keep them in the private school. And he takes them on a road trip to self-discovery. And there's the indie shot of the kids wearing the blanket as a cape, and Chloe Moretz. Joey King has shaved off her hair, so she gets a purple wig that really stands out, and him holding the swear jar under his arm. We get this really indie trailer shot. I guarantee that shot's in the trailer. I guarantee that shot's in the trailer. So yes, this movie should have been really, really cheesy, and it is. But a lot of it really worked for me, so yeah. There's also a weird subplot with Michael Weston as this guy that talks about his dick to Kate Hudson, and she tries to get him for sexual harassment and so on. That's its own thing. I don't even know why it's in there, but another thing so he can make a stand in his life for the first time or whatever. Yeah, you've seen all this bullshit before, but something about the movie works. Even if, the humor is sometimes, there's sometimes really unbalanced. We'll have a scene where Mandy Patinkin's on his deathbed, and then the very next scene, we have a humor scene of a rabbi on a Segway running into a wall. I don't know. And then there's, Zach Braff calls up Josh Gad to tell him, Dad's really not doing well. You've really got to get here right now. And it's a really, really serious scene. And it goes into this really, really serious moment that's really great, where Joey King talks to Josh Gad and tries to convince him to come. That's the start of that scene, as he gets called while he and the girl are having sex in their Comic-Con costumes. That seemed a little lopsided as well. So that balance could be worked on a little more, but all in all, I think Zach Braff does know what he's doing, despite the fact that I understand wholeheartedly why people hate his movies. But he works for me so far.
That's a nice segue, considering the fact that we are going to take on Garden State next year.
So, yes, that's it here.
Alright, as usual, run down one last time, and then I'll give you a little brief update of what's going on for next week. Fury?
Yes, it's one of the best of the year.
Yep. Best of Me?
Get away from me.
Book of Life?
No.
Skeleton Twins?
Yeah.
Love is Strange?
It didn't work for me, but it works for so many other people. I'd say check it out if you want to.
And Wish I Was Here?
Yeah, if you can get through that kind of thing without wanting to slam your head against a wall until you get a concussion, yeah, it works for me.
So next week we've got Ouija, we've got John Wick, which is the greatest movie title ever, and I'm being sarcastic, and Kill the Messenger, and 3 other films.
Camp X-Ray.
Oh, I saw that was on there now, so Camp X-Ray and 2 other films. That's going to be coming, and when I'll let you guys know when AJ's video with 1 billion movies on it, the 20 movie video is going to be. Whenever that is, we'll let you know. So later this week, what?
The other one.
The other one, yeah. Next week is we're going to be talking about those movies later on this week. So tomorrow we've got Gaming with Ash Returns, Sunday Brand New Verses, continuing our scary themed, going to the depths of hell.
Speaking of that, I should probably open my notebook. I closed it.
Not a bad idea. So, AJ, any parting words?